this is our next lab that we'll be doing, is an Excel lab. And what I'm asking you to do is create a backwards budget. Most budgets are based on what you anticipate to spend. I'm going to ask you to make a backwards budget where you build a budget based on what you've actually spent, but then we're adding 3 categories such as savings, taxes, and charity, and these are percentages. Now, what we're doing is, to give you an idea here, is that I just threw in some categories here, and then I create a total, and once I create my formulas, I can double click on my formulas and it shows me what my formula is. All formulas start with an equal sign. So this is what I'm actually spending out of pocket, and I'm spending $2,000 a month on the following items. But what I'd like to have you do is add some percentages for charity. So how are we going to calculate these is I need to take 15% of what I spent and then in turn add it to my total. So you will see that B14 has got funny dollar signs in front of it. That simply means absolute reference versus relative reference in Excel. Now, I'll be covering a lot of topics in this that you may not know, so feel free to watch this video several times. Excel is definitely a money maker for you. If you become Excel certified, you can go to work for Robert Half tomorrow and they will place you in a job making money. So anyway, this is 15%. So what I'm doing is I'm taking 15% of this total and I'm making it display $312. Do the same thing here and notice it's absolute value. Notice the red is changing, but the blue is not. That's what absolute value is. And we'll cover this more later. So now that I have my topics, my things with my totals, now if I look at this one, this is my total money that I'm supposed to be spending to take care of life in general. Charity, taxes, and savings are now included in my monthly spend, which I normally probably don't do. But we're making a point here about trying to get a savings account into our actual spending as we think about spending. Okay, so what we're doing now is I want you to figure out how many hours a month you need to work and what hourly rate you need to support this number of $2,800 a month. So typically payroll is calculated on 2,000 hours a month, and for convenience we're going to use 2,040. Most payroll systems use 2,000. We'll use 2,040 to make things round. So 170 hours a month versus 160 is like what you typically see. And then the hours that you would work at your part-time job. Let's say it's you're working at Starbucks, or you're working, I don't know, in other locations around town. And what I've done is I've created a couple formulas here. So this is how much I would need to make if I only worked 80 hours a month to support this spend. So here's how it works. I double click on this and you can see it's 80 divided by, or actually it's my total divided by 80, and that gives me my hourly rate. So if I was working full time and I was working 170 hours a month, I move this here and hit enter. I only need to be making $16.52 an hour. Well, that's pretty, I could find a job maybe at $16.52, but this is where the exercise comes in. Now let's say, okay, I don't want to give, I don't think my taxes are going to be that high. I'm just a student. I'm only going to have 5%, and hey, I don't want to give anything to charity, and you know what, I'm not going to spend, maybe I won't spend anything at Starbucks. And then you start reducing your cost. okay, I'm going to move back in with my parents. And see, now I'm working full-time. I only need $7 an hour. And I'm going, oh, okay, maybe I can afford that. So maybe I can drop my hours down to what I typically think I might want to do. So let's double click here, move my little red down here. Now notice how the things change, and there's all kinds of different cursors in Excel. Kind of have to watch what you're doing here. So when you click on this one, click here. You can also type it in again, and I need that one, which lets me move it, and there it is. So if I only work 80 hours a month, half time, I need $16 an hour to support that spending. There, that's almost complete. As you go through this and work on this, what I'd like to have you do is let's create a graph that goes into this, or a pie chart. So what we'll do is I'm going to highlight all my areas here. Notice I am not including the totals. And then I'll say insert, and let's go over here and pick on a pie chart here, and let's use this one just for fun. And notice it puts in all my categories for me, and there's my pie chart. Kind of slick, huh? Now let's go over and let's say, okay, I'm now working full-time and I'm making more money, and I can afford to give some money. I'm going to give I'll give 10% to charity, and now taxes is eating me alive, and I have to pay, and I really want to get a good savings account. So I'm going to put 25 into savings, and I can go through and change my numbers. So now I have quite a bit more in insurance because I have a house, and so on and so forth. And so you can see all this stuff changing dynamically, and you can change your hours. Notice where's my hours is still there. Say, hey, I'm working part-time as a nurse. I'm making 45 bucks an hour. Hey, I can support this living habit as a nurse, but not working at Starbucks. So that's the goal of the exercise, is that you're going to kind of create a picture of what your spending is. And you'll submit this, you'll do file, save as, and submit your Excel spreadsheet. Now, I do not really care if you use made up categories, but for your own personal use, I recommend you make this as accurate as possible so you can see where your money is actually going. I've actually met students that spend $100 a month on Starbucks, and I had one student tell me they spent $500 a month on clothes, and everybody in the classroom immediately said, "You live at home, don't you?" So there's some fun stuff to play with. Hopefully this will be a nice learning adventure for you.